Hey guys, welcome back to Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel for today's episode. And at the time of filming this video, guys, today is the 1st of July, and I want to talk about what happens the 1st of July every year in lakes all across the country. The bass start to do one thing, well, actually two things, right around the 1st of July. I'm going to tell you what that is, give you guys some good tips and advice on how to take advantage of it and how to catch fish throughout the month here. And of course, guys, the train shows up right on time as soon as we start the video here, but it'll be past here in a few minutes. Guys, two quick things before we get started I want to remind you of. Solar Bat has got their big 250th anniversary sale, the nation's 250th anniversary. Guys, I got 50% off on my Solar Bat RB2 and RB3 series sunglasses right now, half price. I'll put the Solar Bat link in the description of the video. If you use the promo code RandyB, you get free shipping and handling, guys. Optical clarity on the Solar Bat, second to none. Designed by optometrist Gary Nesty, who's also a bass fisherman. Just the finest sunglasses you're going to find anywhere, so 50% off right now. And also, guys, real quick, if you are looking to spool up and want some good line, guys, try the 3 different Seaguar lines that I use here. There's 3 different ones I use. I start out with the Seaguar Tatsu here. I use the Seaguar Invisix and the Seaguar Carbon Ultra. So I'll put my Seaguar link in the description of this video if you guys would like to get some good Seaguar fluorocarbon fishing line. So I really appreciate that. Okay, guys, try to get away from this train over here. 1st of July, what happens here? One of the things about bass fishing you're going to find is bass have seasonal habits and seasonal movements, and they're pretty predictable. Now, a lot of it has to do also with like weather patterns. Weather patterns can sort of delay or, either delay or make things come a little bit sooner as far as where they move at. Sorry about the train there, guys. We'll get past here in a second. But ultimately, it's a combination of a couple different things. It's a combination of like the water temperature, the daylight hours, and how the daylight hours are starting to get shorter a little bit every day in July. Has to do with the oxygen levels. There's a lot of different things that add up to why they do certain things. So here's some overriding themes that I want to get into why bass do something really strange the first part of July. Okay, in June, we're getting to the caboose now, it's just about over. In June, I consider June like sort of like late post spawn because the bass are not really locked into their summertime patterns yet. A lot of times the bass are still schooled up in fairly big schools. The thermoclines haven't begun to form, so they're a little bit more predictable. You've got bass that are out on hard structure areas like drop-offs and ledges. You got bass that are up in shallow water chasing bluegills. But it starts to change about 1st of July. Every single year you start to notice the change. And what happens is right about this time of year, the fish start to break up and they start to be a little bit more individualistic. They start to spread out more and they start to scatter more throughout the lake. Now what this does is it puts them all over the place. Normally, 1st of July, what happens is you start to have a beginning of the thermocline. And when the thermocline starts to form, it takes a lot of those fish off the bottom that were in deeper water in June and May. In other words, once that thermocline starts forming at about 25 foot, there's not a lot of oxygen below 25 foot. So you don't have a lot of fish in July that are actually on the bottom of 25 feet. The fish start to move a little bit shallower and they start to suspend more at the same time. I know that sort of sounds like a paradox, but a lot of those fish that were sort of in that 20 to 25 foot range that maybe people were catching on ledges and drop-offs, they start to move up a little bit shallower in those mid-depth ranges, sort of in that 10 to 15 foot of water. And then a lot of those fish that were deeper, they just get out and they start roaming and suspending in the middle of the lake. And that's where, the live scopers catch them. They just get out there and they chase those big shad schools, roam out in open water. They don't relate to any structure whatsoever. And they spend the rest of the summer out there. And then in correlation with that, you have a population of bass, and I put it sort of at about 25% that live extremely shallow in the month of July, right around July 1st. So my best guess, in most lakes across the country, normal man-made lakes, you've got about 50% of the bass that are suspended. Just out, they can be suspended anywhere out there, but they're just roaming out there suspended. Now this is true unless you have like a a river system or a real muddy lake, just a typical man-made lake. So you're going to have about 50% of them that are suspended. You're going to have about 25% of them that sort of use what I call that mid-depth zone. So they're going to be into that, 5 to 15 foot zone. And then you got about 25% of the bass that live really shallow. They're living in less than 5 foot of water, even in the summertime. Talk about this quite a bit on the channel here. Let's talk a little bit about where those fish exactly are. The 25% that live really shallow are what I call the hunter-gatherers. They're the ones up there looking for perch and bluegill swimming along the bank. They're looking for shore minnows swimming along the bank. They're apt to get a snake or a frog if it hops in the water, or a mouse or something. They're rooting around for crawdads. They're looking for whatever they can find in shallow water. And they set up on shallow targets a lot of times. Could be docks, lily pads, whatever shallow cover you have. Sometimes it's just shade. Sometimes they don't need any cover. These are the fish that I target personally in the summertime of the year. The other 25% are sort of what I call point-related mid-depth bass. Now these are going to be bass that they may have been deeper on the point earlier in their year, but they've moved shallower. And they start to hang out around that 5 to 15 foot zone on the main lake and secondary points. If you have any type of brush or cover or rock, that's even better with that, but they live on those areas on the bottom. And then some of those same fish also live on channel banks. They live on creek channel bends, creek channel banks, bluff banks, that type of thing. And then the majority of the lake, 50%, are the open water roamers. They can be suspended out off the points. They can be swimming around in the middle of a creek, in the middle of a cove, whatever. But ultimately what you have is you've got these fish that are scattered out everywhere, because in the mid-depth zone, not every point is going to have a fish on it. And if you go up shallow, if you get back into the back of a creek or up in a cove somewhere, not every shallow area is going to have bass in it. And of course, it's like looking for a needle in a stack of needles, looking for those suspended fish, unless you have the cheater box. So, that's a whole different conversation. I'm not even concerning myself with those fish. So ultimately, you have to decide, starting in July 1st, how do you want to fish? And you can do about anything you want to and be successful. I mean, if you want to use the cheater box, you can use the cheater box and catch them. If you want to target those mid-depth range, you can get out there on those points and drag a football head jig around, throw a big worm, throw a hair jig, throw a spoon, catch them like that. And if you're like me, if you want to get up shallow, you can catch them on a swim jig, top water, pitching and flipping around a little bit, maybe some shallow running crankbait. So a little bit of something for everybody. But get ready, because the 1st of July, in my opinion, marks the beginning of what I call the toughest time of the year. Now, the reality of fishing, from my perspective, from what I've seen, is from about the 1st of July up until about the middle of September is the toughest period of the year to catch bass. This is just when they're hard to catch. I mean, a lot of times, like I said, they're not only scattered, but they're hard to catch. They're inactive. You have a lot of noise on the lake. The noise decibel levels are high because, jet skis and pontoon boats and stuff running around. So it just gets a little bit tougher. Oxygen levels are real inconsistent. You got that thermocline where there's no oxygen deeper. And some of the shallow water areas also, if they don't have current or wind moving the water, can lose their oxygen content too, and those fish get a little bit more lethargic. So just pick however you want to fish, guys. There's 3 ways to do it. Pick one, commit to it, and the more you commit to it and focus to it and refine all the details within that pattern, the more fish you're going to catch. So anyway, I hope it helps out. We'll talk later.